If you look up irony and hypocrisy in the dictionary, you'll find this story right here. So we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence over the last couple of weeks, all of the adverse ways in which this technology has impacted the world, negative impact on the economic state, especially of computing electronics and computing components, the negative impact it's had on the environment, the negative impact it's had on the spread of misinformation, and the way this technology is ultimately built off of the backs of other people's work, but without their permission. AI basically is created on stolen data. So how ironic and hypocritical is it when AI companies start to complain that their technology, their AI data models are getting stolen by foreign entities, that their work is being taken without permission? Little taste of your own medicine there. We've seen OpenAI complain about this before. Back in February 12, 2026, Bloomberg reported that OpenAI has warned U.S. lawmakers that its Chinese rival DeepSeek is using unfair and increasingly sophisticated methods to extract results from leading U.S. AI models to train the next generation of its breakthrough R1 chatbot. The amount of sympathy towards OpenAI was absolutely zero online and on social media and across the web, with people highlighting how OpenAI trained its models on the entire internet without asking permission from a single creator, author, or publisher. Now a Chinese competitor is doing the same thing to them, and suddenly it's unfair. This isn't about ethics, it's about market share. The company that disrupted every industry by scraping their data is now asking the government to protect it from being disrupted the same way. Again, hypocrisy at its finest, hypocrisy by the very definition of the word. OpenAI was met with mass mockery as a result, with tweets like, "Mommy, someone copied my Plagiarizer 9000," going viral as people made fun of OpenAI having the audacity to talk about unfair tactics when it comes to stealing their work. When AI companies complain about someone stealing their hard work, LOL. And then more recently, Anthropic came out and complained about something similar. PC Gamer reports right here, Anthropic says it has identified thousands of fraudulent accounts taking Claude and extracting its capabilities to train and improve their own models, as if they themselves haven't been extracting the work of other people without their permission to train their own AI models. All of this was detailed in the following blog post published on Anthropic's official website on February 23rd, 2026, titled "Detecting and Preventing Distillation Attacks." And these are the details that were provided by Anthropic. We have identified industrial-scale campaigns by 3 AI laboratories, DeepSeek, Moonshot, and Minimax, to illicitly extract Claude's capabilities to improve their own models. For AI companies to even talk about what's illicit when they have been illegally stealing other people's data and copyrighted work, again, just hilarious. The level of irony and hypocrisy at play here is just something you cannot make up. These labs generated over 16 million exchanges with Claude through approximately 24,000 fraudulent accounts in violation of our terms of service and regional access restrictions. Nobody gives a shit about your terms of service when you did not give a shit about the terms of individuals whose works you stole from to train your own AI model that then you profited off of. The statement continues, labs use a technique called distillation, which involves training a less capable model on the outputs of a stronger one. Distillation can also be used for illicit purposes. Competitors can use it to acquire powerful capabilities from other labs in a fraction of the time and at a fraction of the cost that it would take to develop them independently. The window to act is narrow, says Anthropic. Addressing it will require rapid, coordinated action among industry players, policymakers, and the global AI community. Oh, all of a sudden, now that their work is getting stolen, we need immediate action among industry players, policymakers, and the global AI community, but not when Anthropic and OpenAI and similar AI companies are stealing the work of individual citizens and artists and workers, or entire organizations who have pioneered certain works and have copyrighted material that Anthropic and OpenAI and other similar AI companies are happy to steal from and exploit. One last area where Anthropic makes it a point to highlight to garner further sympathy is the notion that illicitly distilled models lack necessary safeguards, creating significant national security risks. But who's the one who failed to secure the data that causes those risks? Much like with OpenAI a few weeks ago when they complained that their work was stolen, Anthropic's statement here talking about how their work was stolen was met with pure, unadulterated mockery. One of the top responses is this meme right here presenting Claude as basically saying, "You're trying to kidnap what I've rightfully stolen." And the amount of sympathy being expressed for Anthropic is absolutely zero. "You deserve it," says this top comment. And then another top comment here highlights one of the community notes that fully emphasizes the level of hypocrisy on display here. So this individual just said, "Ha ha ha," the community notes, and the community notes read as follows. Anthropic settled a $1.5 billion lawsuit for pirating over 7 million books from shadow libraries to train Claude, and faces a $3 billion lawsuit for torrenting over 20,000 songs. They built their models on stolen creative work, then complain when others extract their outputs. That's right, they didn't even obtain the data that they trained their AI on legally. They pirated a bunch of stuff, or basically took archives and repositories of pirated works in order to train their AI. They didn't buy these books individually or buy these songs individually. They just took them for free based on databases out there on the internet that are illegal. So for them to have the audacity to talk about how foreign labs are illicitly distilling American models, I mean, they're asking for every bit of mockery that's coming their way right now. And then when you look at the tweets quoting Anthropic's statement, that's where you'll find a lot of the big gun statements that have gained tons of traction, hundreds of thousands to millions of views, tens of thousands of likes, like this one right here. I have a website about traditional Chinese medicine that I spent literal years building. When I asked questions to Claude about the topic, it parroted almost word for word what I wrote myself. So please spare us the gaslighting about training AI on others' work. Do not lecture us about unfair stolen work or about illicitly stolen work. Do not try to garner sympathy from the very people who you've stolen work from, who you have done exactly what you're accusing your rivals of doing to you. Here's another top comment that reads, wait, let me get this straight. People that stole the whole internet are upset that the others are stealing from them. The thieves are mad that their stolen work is being stolen and are asking for sympathy and are asking that these entities be brought to justice when the accusers are engaging in exactly the same practices as the accused. Here's another top comment presenting an image that I think aptly highlights the hypocrisy of how both sides are basically doing the exact thing, but companies like OpenAI and Anthropic are reframing the narrative when it benefits them. AI companies will call it their glorious safety researchers, but when rivals do the same thing, they'll call it their wicked API hackers. What AI companies will call their great fair use doctrine, when rivals do something similar, they'll call it their primitive terms of service violations. AI companies will call it our noble pre-training corpus, but when rivals do it, they'll call it their backward parrot scripts. And then what AI companies call our heroic data crawlers, when it comes to rivals, they'll call it their brutish model cloning. Another top comment is this sarcastic tweet right here by Tetsuo, which reads, I can't believe someone would just steal from Anthropic like this. The millions of man-hours Anthropic spent handwriting code, text, art, books, etc. to generate enough data for training must be taken into consideration here. Where's the respect for IP? And to really highlight how egregious the copyright infringement on the part of AI models from companies like Anthropic is, here is somebody who straight up was able to extract 95.8% of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone from Claude Sonnet. Like, it wasn't a summary of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. It was just the book, word for word. Here's someone else saying, oh, sorry, does someone not like it when their data is used for AI training? Are you going to cry? So, this is the level of commentary that's happening online. Again, just the level of disbelief at the fact that a company that has trained its AI models, that has built its entire fortune off of stealing other people's work, would start to try to garner sympathy about their work getting stolen and their work being used for profit when this is the entire model of AI. And then beyond that, Anthropic talks about how all this is a danger to national security. But why is that onus being placed on the public when it's up to the companies to protect their work and the pivotal, vital data within. This individual put it aptly: every time DeepSeek releases a new model, Silicon Valley screams, they stole our chips, they stole our tech, they violated export controls, but nobody asks the real question: how did you lose to a competitor you claimed was handicapped, restricted, and cut off from the best hardware? If a sanctioned, isolated, smuggled chip team can outrun you, maybe the problem isn't theft, maybe the problem is that your entire industry depends on excuses. So you lose to someone you claim is crippled, you didn't get robbed, you just got outclassed. What OpenAI and Anthropic are truly complaining about is the fact that they're losing at their own game. That's it. And then there's the fact that AI models from these Chinese companies are getting better PR because of the fact that they're open source. This individual put it aptly: a closed source model accusing open source labs of stealing is the funniest plot twist in AI history, highlighting how Claude can't show all of this information that open source AI models do show, whether it's training data, licensing, copyrighted sources, web scrapes, human-written data sets, distillation lineage, third-party contributions. Despite the complete lack of transparency on the part of companies like OpenAI and Anthropic versus its rivals, they'll try to accuse open source labs of stealing and try to play the victim. This individual continues: unless they personally emailed every copyright holder, Claude, as well as Anthropic's other models, as well as OpenAI's own models, are built on the same internet, the same public corpora, and the same unlicensed text they pretend to be morally above. But the funniest thing is the labs they accuse, DeepSeek, Moonshot, Minimax, publish papers, disclose methods, and release weights. Anthropic publishes a blog with vibes, fear-mongering, and a wall of redacted diagrams. Closed labs aren't protecting ethics, they're protecting opacity. They're protecting a complete lack of transparency. That's how they're being viewed right now. And the conversation surrounding open source AI versus closed source AI is one that is spreading, and the implications of that aspect are being discussed quite heavily. Here's Midas, for example, who kind of gave the following take: here is why the AI bubble will implode. China is using a totally different approach to AI: open source, mass scale, cheap. The West's approach to AI: closed source, private, profit-driven. China will mass-produce AI and export it everywhere like their products. This will be a race to the bottom where the West can't compete. With that, the inflated AI valuations in the West and their stock market will crash. Current Chinese AI is on par with the best in the West, but 8 times cheaper and open source. You're not ready, says this individual. And all the while, in the West, especially in the US, AI currently has basically contributed zero to the United States economic growth, according to Goldman Sachs. The way someone from Goldman Sachs put it is that a lot of the AI investment that we're seeing in the US adds to Taiwanese GDP, and it adds to Korean GDP, but not really that much to US GDP, because ultimately a lot of components are being purchased from these companies that come from foreign countries. All the chips, the RAM, the SSDs, the GPUs and whatnot are all coming from, Taiwan, from Korea, so on and so forth. And meanwhile, US AI companies are burning money in the hopes that one day they'll start to see revenue and profits and growth. But until they get to that point, just how expensive it is to build AI data centers, to maintain AI data centers, and to power AI data centers. And with the adoption of that technology and the revenue surrounding it not being at a pace that matches the level of expense on display, all this is ultimately having a severely negative impact on the US's economy. So yeah, beyond the hypocrisy surrounding complaining about unfair and illicit stolen work, these companies are not doing themselves any favors by racing towards becoming leaders of AI technology in such an irresponsible manner without consideration or regard for the consequences and the impact, the negative impact it'll have on, just your average Joes and US citizens and citizens across the globe for that matter who are experiencing adverse environmental impacts. They're experiencing just straight up being replaced by AI that does inferior work to them. Artistry is being compromised by the way AI is so irresponsibly being created as a technology, so on and so forth. So again, the level of sympathy towards these companies is practically non-existent, and the PR surrounding this technology and the optics are just so negative and often dehumanizing. And Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, recently came out and talked about how, well, people complain about how much energy AI consumes, but think about how much energy individual human beings consume, as if humanity is more of a nuisance than the entire point of why we're here on this planet, as if improving human lives is not really the end goal. So yeah, AI companies, you kind of reap what you sow, and karma is a bitch, ain't it? Live in the grave that you made for yourself, because you will certainly garner no sympathy from the masses who you have no problem screwing over. But then when you get screwed over in a similar fashion, then suddenly it's important to speak out. Then it's unfair. Then it's illicit. Then it's okay to complain. You're not playing a subtle game here. People see you for exactly who you are, and y'all will just have to deal with the consequences of the environment that you fostered for yourselves. Or at the very least, that's one man's take. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on AI companies complaining about their work getting stolen in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.